I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey you guys, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. So today's episode, I would say the theme kind of feels like divine justice, maybe. I think you guys will understand once we jump in, even though the stories are pretty different. Let's get into it. So first up, we have to discuss Elizabeth Holmes. The day has finally come, and Elizabeth Holmes is finally facing the music and headed into prison for what will probably be 11 years of her life. And let's just say she won't be drinking any green juice in there. She has reported to a prison in jeans and a sweater, and she was driven there by her mother and her father, Christian and Noelle Holmes. According to the New York Times, the prison where she is being housed allows inmates to work in a factory-type setting for $1.15 an hour. Pretty humbling for the woman who once raised almost $1 billion, all while in her 20s. Trading in her signature black turtlenecks for an orange jumpsuit is bound to send a message to Silicon Valley. Fake it till you make it can mean prison time. Do not lie to your investors. Okay, and for our second story of the day, I did want to issue a content warning. This story does involve some graphic descriptions, not as extreme as some other times, but I did want to go ahead and give that preface. So this is a story about the nun who did not decay. So this is a crazy story that I feel like plays right into, Catholic mysticism and folklore in a way that we really haven't seen in modern times or in the United States. Let me explain. When you go to Catholic churches in Europe or even places in South America, you will often see relics. Oh, this was the ear of Saint Catherine, or this towel showed us the face of Jesus, etc., etc. And this type of spiritualism or mysticism is a type of thing that Catholics just love, an element of magic amid the framework of unbending Christianity. But now such an event, or relic, if you will, has developed in Missouri, of all places. And people are flocking from near and far to pay homage and to have their own little brush with perceived magic. In the small town of Gower, Missouri, a nun named Sister Wilhelmina Lancaster had passed away. She died in 2018 and had been buried for 4 years. Unfortunately, her body needed to be exhumed in order to move it during an expansion. But when the casket was opened, her body showed absolutely no signs of decay or insects, despite the fact that she had been placed in a simple wooden coffin without being embalmed. Her white habit was perfectly intact, without a wrinkle or a stain. People are interpreting this as a testament to the Catholic faith and a renewed reason to believe. One visitor said of the event, quote, "I was just overwhelmed. You hear or read about these things, you know they're true, maybe in Europe or somewhere, but to actually see it happen in our day and age, I think, is a great testament to the Catholic faith." End quote. The nun has now been placed in a glass coffin inside the church so that people can come and view her. They are also beginning to take dirt from the spot where her grave lay in the ground, where a sign reads, quote, "Please take no more than 1 teaspoon of dirt," end quote. And The ground around that sign is scattered with colorful plastic spoons, and the line to visit that site wraps around the building, you guys. Some are calling for her to be vetted as a saint, while others are saying, hold up, is there a scientific explanation for this? The nuns who were exhuming her body were told to expect only bones left because she had been buried in a simple wooden coffin and, again, without embalming. Experts are saying that there are recorded incidents of this happening, but that it would be pretty unusual outside of the first or second year after burial. The process of sainthood is very lengthy, you guys, and there is a high bar to clear, including the enactment of several miracles, not just one, and having lived in an admirable way, serving the church and serving the community. Also, you cannot even begin the process of becoming a saint until 5 years after your death, so that would begin at the soonest next year. But from what I've heard, Sister Wilhelmina was an incredible woman who actually founded her covenant and was reportedly always available to the people who needed her. The expansion of this church, that was the reason she was being exhumed, was actually to build a little sanctuary for her to house her body because she made such a big impact on her community. So I think there's definitely a chance that she will be considered for sainthood. And if so, we'll definitely keep you guys posted on that process. And lastly for today, let's talk about the Sackler family ruling. So, of course, this kind of goes along with our theme of divine justice, whether it's Elizabeth Holmes or a woman who deserved more admiration during her life, getting it in death. The Sackler family ruling has been passed down, and it has been ruled that they will be given full immunity from the civil claims against them on into the future. Damn. I don't know about you guys, but that feels a little fucked up. And that said, the agreement will release $6 billion in funds to help the community that their drugs have destroyed. They still have not admitted any wrongdoing, and this ruling gives them the protection that they've always wanted because they know how liable they are. All of this came about because Purdue Pharma, the Sackler family's opioid dealing company, filed for bankruptcy 4 years ago amid so many lawsuits. This has been a huge point of contention because the family has so much private wealth. They will now, though, under this new negotiation, restructure into a new company called Kanoa Pharma. So if you see that name, Kanoa Pharma, it's Purdue Pharma under a new banner. Woof. But they will be selling drugs that help reverse addiction and help with addiction treatment, as well as Oxycontin, which is a little bit crazy to me because now they will both sell the problem and the solution. So that also is frustrating and doesn't feel like divine justice in any way, shape, or form. But this new company will be overseen by a publicly elected board to help keep them honest because we can't trust them to do that on their own. Some people were a fan of this ruling. Others were pissed and felt that it just wasn't enough for the crisis this family has fueled knowingly for decades. But the case had remained unfinished for so long that I feel like this settlement is definitely better than making the victims wait even a day longer for a resolution. That $6 billion is needed in the fight against the opioid crisis, and now those funds can be released. So I do feel like that is a step in the right direction. And for today, that's the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "Karma says, if you focus on the hurt, you will continue to suffer. If you focus on the lesson, you will continue to grow." If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the news du jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.